let's see. We are going to go over some of the notes you guys took from yesterday. So it's probably a good thing you guys are here because also you have a mini quiz. So for all those who decided to sneak out early on this Friday, ruh-roh. Also, because it's Friday, it's Fun Friday. I've decided to enact Fun Friday again because, you know, why not? I was thinking about this the other day and kind of thinking about like what sort of things, hi Sam, that I miss most about like this whole lockdown situation, like change up. Live music, that's like one of my most like fun things to go do. Last year I had to like 3 sets of concert tickets that got canceled. It was really sad. So I was thinking on my way to go pick up my son today. I love music. I love all types of music. So I was like, hey, Fun Friday question. What was the last song that you guys listened to? Like if I had to like, you had to like share your screens and show me the last thing that you listened to like on Spotify or Pandora or whatever listening music platform you guys go to. What is the last thing that you guys listen to? Or I guess what's the favorite thing you guys listen to? And I'll share mine with you and you guys can like, because I think it's fun to see what type of music we all listen to. I'll share my last 3 because it's kind of interesting. I don't know, interesting is the right word for it, but diverse, I guess. You can totally tell I'm like a parent driving around in a car. All right, so my first one would be, so what's the last thing that you guys listen to? Uh, uh, really like, oh, you like EDM? My son likes EDM too. Payphone, like Payphone by Maroon 5, Gavin? Champagne Problems. I like Maroon 5. I don't think I've ever heard of that one, Victoria. Driver's license. Rock with You. Oh, MJ. That's like shooting it back to my era. 3 a.m. So mine were Killing in the Name of by Rage Against the Machine, Better by Khalid, and What's My Name from the Descendants 2 soundtrack. So if you all know, at what point did my child get in the car? That dang song. So if you're familiar with the Disney movie about the characters, I mean, I'm not hating against the movie. I've just seen it about 3,000 times and listened to that dang song about 3,000 times. My daughter's all about it. What's my name? What's my name? Oh man. Have you guys ever been to any concerts? I guess we'll extend the question. That's the thing I like the most. I love all types of music, most especially live music. So have you guys been to any concerts? And if you have, what concert did you go to? Have you been to a concert? And if you have, what concert have you been to? And hello to all of you who just popped in. Hi, Trinity. Hi, Mustafa. Hi, Beyonce. Hi, Salim. We are playing Fun Friday. Like, sharing is caring time. Except no one wants to play. Boo. You went to the Billie Eilish concert, Sophia? Ooh, how was it? I can't decide about her. I don't know. She's like 16. You're that melancholy? Come on now. It was good. I don't know what it is. I like her. I think I liked her better when I didn't know how old she was. Not to be like condescending, but I'm like, she's like a super cool voice. She's got it. She's got style. She's got a style. She's got a vibe about her. All right. Well, fine. If you guys don't want to play on my Fun Friday, whatevs. Whatevs. But I'll have to check out your guys' other music options and choices and selections. Brent Payaz is Fire. Oh, I've never heard of that. What type of music is that? Mustafa. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I love all types of music. I should say, I mean, we're talking classical, total band, like played clarinet, whole 9 yards, started in 5th grade, all the way. The only type I don't like is like super vampire-y death like rock, like satanic-y stuff. That's kind of where I draw the line. Oh my gosh. Oh, Brit. Britney Spears came out, fun fact, when I was a freshman, so I was your guys' age. And she was all the rage, all the rage. I went to her concert too, first concert that was that my first concert? Yeah, that was my first concert. Britney Spears. I went summer of my going into my sophomore year. And then I went to Oasis, which was a very different experience than Britney Spears. Fun. I wish I would have saw her in Las Vegas, but now I don't know. She ebbs and flows. I feel a little bad for her right now. She's on the struggle bus again. Okay, next question, a little bit more science related, since we do have a mini quiz today, is question 2. Go ahead and in the chat, name one similarity and one difference between DNA and RNA. So what is one thing that DNA and RNA have in common, and what is one thing that DNA and RNA do not have in common? What is one thing they do not share? Okay, so in the chat on this Participation Friday, remembering that participation is part of your grade. And when we don't participate, you lose points. Bad pandas. Oh, there we go. Absolutely correct, David. Absolutely correct, Gavin. Also, I'll take it, Brandy. Absolutely correct. True, Billy. Very true. Sophia Correctamundo. Accurate, John. Okay. There's more Trinity, I promise. Precise, Beyonce. I'm trying to come up with all of the different ways I could say correct. So Trinity, maybe what is one way that they're different though? That's how you could steal their thunder. They're all saying how they're similar. There's still ways that they're different. What does RNA have that DNA doesn't? Ben's correct. Oh, I didn't use a new word. I'm running out of options here. I just have to say correct, precise, accurate, on point. Good. They are both in our bodies. Yes. Okay. Awesome, guys. I love it. Good job, Erin. Okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to have you guys jump over to slide number 13, and we're going to take all of your guys' awesome suggestions and we're going to start building out slide number 13 together. So if you guys got a chance to build that out yesterday after your Nearpod, awesome job. You're right on track. If you got sidetracked and you're like, row, I did not do that assignment, then yikes. So make sure you guys do that. I will go through this stuff. You guys are free to follow along and add stuff, but it is important that you guys do it as well. There is other information in there that you guys are responsible for knowing as well. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with this whole idea of the two types of molecules, the DNA and the RNA, remembering that they are family. So like mi familia. And it got me thinking, kind of random tangent again, because why not? It's Friday. We've got to get on these random tangents the whole time. How many of you guys like Netflix? Like apparently like I do. I've been on this like Netflix kick, and especially documentaries. I don't know, they hook me. I've been into watching like the murder ones. It's weird. Like I watched Night Stalker the other day. Cray. Like I got super, I don't know if I told you guys this or if I told second period this. I completely watched, yes, crime shows. Oh, I watched Night Stalker the other day when my husband was gone and I was home alone. Bad idea. Soup's bad idea. If you're unfamiliar, they're like true stories, and it was about the serial killer in California from the 80s who would just like randomly break into people's houses and like not so good stuff. And then out they go. A little different than Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I can get down with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but a little bit more on the edgy side. But the way this guy like operated, and he had like the craziest eyes, and they kept like zooming in on these like mug shots of him, and his I had to do the whole like cover your face, like cover your eyes moments, because and I had the trippiest dreams that night. I have a way overactive imagination, and it was bad. Anyway, on to what I was saying. If you like those type of documentaries, I got hooked. Oh yeah. I see. The bad part is I was also home alone, and he like randomly breaks into people's houses. Like it didn't matter if they were home or they weren't. Like he obviously liked it when you were home, but so I was freaking out. Like I was running around the house, like locking all the doors, like having a moment. But I stumbled across this one, and I was like, I can't watch something so like personally damaging to me, but I really was into the documentary kick. And I came across, speaking of Brooklyn and being New York, this one called Fear City. And it was totally about how the FBI took down the mob and the mafia. And if you are familiar, like with the mafia for decades, I mean, decades, like all through like the early 1900s, it's like dang near up through the 80s, completely ran New York City, like full on. And the police force, like the police, the FBI, they had no idea how to bring them down. Absolutely no idea. So it was just mind boggling to me, like how these whole families, like, because they were all about the family, and like they had a code to live by, and like, oh, blood is thicker than water, and blood was flowing, like, and they made like millions upon millions of dollars all underneath the FBI's nose. And the FBI knew like they were shadesters and doing all this stuff, and they could not figure out how to take them down. It's just insane until they did. And so it went through this whole process. So if you're interested, watch it. But the reason I'm telling you this story is because as I'm sitting there going through it and thinking about this whole idea of like how these families were organized, and why the FBI kind of like mapped it out, and why you could never take down family. And it had to do with their organization structure and their hierarchy. So you had all of these like low level, like not low level, but I mean, they're in the family, like mi familia. They were the low level workers, and they had their business that they were into. And in New York, the business that they ran was construction. The mafia, if you were unaware, was responsible for building New York City. So all the skyscrapers that you see, all that stuff, I mean, like Trump Tower, all of that was built by mafia money, all of it. So they ran all of that stuff. And like it was cutthroat business. and the FBI is just watching this happen, and they're like pulling their hair out, like, how do we stop this? We have no idea. So they got these low-level workers. Those level workers are then run by essentially like their boss, which is like middle management boss family. And they were like, okay, the FBI knew how to they could pinpoint and maybe take those guys in. But what they really figured out, they're like, if we want to really take this family down, we've got to take out the top boss. The problem was the godfather, that's like, the head of the family, the top, they could never get him. Never. The top mob bosses never associated themselves with any parts of the business, nothing. They were like squeaky clean. They were like hands like, no, it wasn't me. I don't know anything about it. They can never connect any of it together. You want to know who that reminds me of? DNA. DNA is like the mob boss of your body. And their businesses and your body's business is not constructing skyscrapers, it's constructing proteins. So I was thinking about this the other day when we start to learn about these processes. One trick when we're learning these like crazy complex moving parts and processes within our body is if we associate them with like dramas that we can relate to, or like people, and with personalities and characteristics that we are familiar with. So sometimes if you hear me refer to them as like actually having a personality or like personalized characteristics, that's like a remembering strategy so you guys can kind of grasp what their actual structure, function, and role is within a process or within your body. So when I was like kind of watching the show, the different RNA types that we're going to go through like weirdly mimic how a mob family was organized, especially with DNA involved. So today, I thought it would be kind of fun to kind of mirror side by side image a little bit. What are the different types of RNA and how that kind of mimics how like a mob family is put together? Because technically, your DNA and your RNA, they're a family. This is like the mafia family of your whole genetic operation in your body. This is the nucleic acids, just like the Genoveses and the Lucchese's and all the mafia families that used to run and hustle New York. These guys run and hustle your body. They keep you alive just like those people kept New York alive. So kind of interesting, kind of fun. So we'll try to like make it a little bit more fun and like add some flair to our genetic conversation here. But to get us going, first we gotta I want to point out, I added some more of those little Post-it notes. Remember that you can get those on the very last slide, on slide 25. I just made mine a little bit lighter. I know that I might need some extra space, so I just added some here on my side. Remember, you can do the same thing. So first things first, okay? So important things to know about DNA, and I'll kind of partner that together with like our little example I started for us. So big thing here, DNA, okay? What is the function of DNA? All right. So if you guys want to join in and entering all of like helping me answer these questions, that would be amazing. Okay. So DNA, what is DNA? What's the DNA's job? Or like DNA essentially is like the head of the nucleic acid family. Okay, so DNA is responsible for, it carries the genetic code and instructions for making all the, okay. Remember, this is like your body's industry, where like I mentioned, like, oh, the mafia ran construction, like they built skyscrapers. Your body's, they're building proteins. We need proteins to survive. Okay. Now, the big thing about where DNA lives is huge. Okay. So DNA, is incredibly important. Now, typically the more important you are, the more protected you need to be. So just like in like that whole mob situation, the mafia family, the mafia boss, like the head guy, is not rolling around on the low level job sites. That's too dangerous for him. He holds way too much information. He's responsible for way too many things. It's just way too dangerous to be that exposed. So typically, the mob bosses are holed up in some sort of compound. I mean, like mansion style. Okay. Now, within our body, essentially the mansion of our cells is going to be the nucleus. Okay. Now, inside the nucleus, remember that's inside the cell, kind of like centrally located, and the DNA stays there. Okay, so DNA does not leave. Nucleus also provides protection. Okay, remember the precious information that the DNA is carrying at that, what they have. Okay. Okay, let me close this. Okay, so remember what that DNA is holding on to, that genetic code. So when you have a molecule as sensitive and as important as the DNA, the more layers of protection that they have, the better. So in this case, DNA is locked up and kind of stays put in the nucleus. Okay, so we got to protect it. That doesn't make him any less like of a player in this whole protein production game. Okay, so he's carrying the genetic code for which is the instructions for making all the proteins that we need to survive. Okay. Any other important information you guys think we should add about the DNA? About A's, T's, C's, and D's, maybe? Yep, John, you want to add one?
I thought we were on the second question, like where is it found?
Where is it found? You want to do that one? So we have the nucleus. You want to add something about that?
Okay.
What you got?
It's found in our bodies.
Okay.
I think that's all I got. It's only asking for its location, nothing else about.
Okay, so when we have, so we're gonna add,
Oh,
we're gonna
it's found
build.
in living organisms. Yeah, better answer.
There we go. So when we talk about where is it found, we can add that within our bodies. So we'll kind of build upon that. So we've got within our bodies, but more, if we kind of go more specific, it's within the cells within our bodies. And then a little bit more specific from there, it's going to be in the nucleus, the very center of our cells. And then that's where we're going to find the DNA. So it's kind of locked up tight in there. Good job. Okay. Now, as the head of the nucleic acid family, he's obviously not the only member. Okay, we've got other members of the family too. But remember, it's all about the family business, and the family business is genetic information and specifically the production of proteins, which leads us to the RNA. Okay, remember, these are going to be like the cousins. Everybody, think about like those big Italian families. Everybody's got lots of cousins. Okay. And these guys, the RNA, it's like DNA's big extended family of cousins. Okay. And RNA family, or the RNA cousins, are used to transfer the code for making proteins from the nucleus through the ribosomes to the ribosomes. Take that guy. Actually, okay. Now, there's kind of like when we talked about, like there's a hierarchy in how our family tree and how this little organization, little crime family, not really crime because these guys are doing good things in our body, but how our little family is going to be, our nucleic acid family is going to be organized in here. Okay. Now, if you've got your pinnacle, your peak, right, you got DNA. So most families who operate in this sort of way have a second in command. So the person who's right underneath the big boss. And this person is typically the one who communicates directly with the boss. Very rarely do you have any other members of the family, the lower levels of the family, communicating directly with the boss. There's usually one guy. It's the guy that the boss trusts. It's that trusted confidant. But this guy also is the person who's got to be the go-between, right? So it has to, this person has to be able to be really savvy with their words, be able to communicate with the boss, be very professional. So have that ability to be very eloquent and speak very professionally in one arena, but also be able to turn it on and be able to turn it off and flip it and be more street smart and street savvy in another arena. Okay, so if you've ever seen people who like that, who can be very fluid in how they talk, you guys are actually very skilled at this yourselves. Think about how you communicate in school. You speak to a teacher or an adult in one way, like when we're in the classroom, you guys speak to me or other teachers in one way. And then I hear you guys speak to your friends in another way, right? So you might say, "Good morning, Mrs. Struttins," or like, "Hi, how are you?" But I might hear you guys say something a little bit more loose or like more use slang vocabulary with your friends, like "what up" or "what up, dog," or whatever the slang words you guys say, okay, to your friends. Now, those two things mean the same thing, but you know when it's appropriate to say those different phrases and in what environment. Now, that's a skill. This person who can talk to DNA can talk to both those crews. So they're like the middleman. So this person can float into the nucleus. That's the really cool thing about this person too. The second in command can go into the nucleus, and they can also come out of the nucleus. And this particular person their RNA is the one that's going to be delivering the messages from the DNA. And that one is going to be our mRNA, which is our messenger RNA. Okay. And this guy delivers the instructions, delivers a copy instructions in a specific protein nucleus to the ribosome. Okay. Now with your mRNA, literally, like if you've ever heard the saying, like, "Don't shoot the messenger." This guy legit is the only form of RNA that interacts directly with the DNA. So DNA holds all of the information. And mRNA is the only one that's allowed to get a peek and who sees the genetic code. And so mRNA ends up carries a copy of that code because we can't take the entire code out of here, so it's on lockdown. And because that mRNA, because of its structure, remember that structure function thing, remember mRNA, you guys all said, or the RNAs are smaller, they're thinner, they're shorter. These guys are single-stranded, so they're little. These guys can actually sneak in and out of the nucleus. This guy up here, the DNA, he's actually physically, like structurally, also too big to leave the nucleus. So he's not only like he has to stay there for protective purposes, but he's also too big to leave. Okay, so he's stuck up in there. So the mRNA is going to make a copy of the specific protein that needs to be created, and is going to then take it out of the nucleus and deliver it to the ribosomes. Now the ribosomes are like the shop floor. It's a factory, the construction site, the job site is essentially what a ribosome is. Okay, everybody following me on that part so far? So give me like a yes or a thumbs up or
Yep.
some sort of sign you guys are all
Yep.
still alive and breathing.
Yeah, we're still alive and breathing.
You just never know. You might be like snoring logs or like crying in a blanket because you're like, this is confusing. You just never know. Okay, good. All right, so far we've got our top, we've got our second in command, which is our mRNA delivering the messages from the boss. Now remember, when you're in that middle spot, you've got to go between both worlds. So when you've got this guy, he's like rolling in a suit and tie, he's kind of fancy, he's kind of like quasi-boss, like semi-boss. He's gonna then deliver it to the next person in line, the next important person, because that's how a power structure works. You got the top, then the next person, then the next person in line. Now, in our little nucleic acid family, your next person in line is your rRNA. Okay. Now, one way to remember their order of importance and the order in which they're going to be used is notice that their abbreviations also go in order. It's also a little trick to remembering which ones go which in the order of like the sequence. So you have DNA, and then you have the mRNA. So M comes before R. So one little way to think about that. Your rRNA is ribosomal RNA. Now remember, the ribosome I just mentioned was like the work site. Like the job site. So if you are a ribosomal RNA, you are responsible, you run the job site. Okay, this is the boss of the job site. Okay, and in our bodies, the ribosomal RNA makes up the components. A ribosome and reads the mRNA, reads the copy, the mRNA. Okay, so remember, if your mRNA is delivering the message from the DNA, well, where is the message being delivered to? It's being delivered to this guy, the head of the construction. This is like your foreman, the guy who's doing all the work. So this guy understands what the message is, okay? Now, once this guy gets the message, he's got to start getting his crew together. So when you start looking down at the hierarchy, they always kind of make a pyramid. So you have the guy at the top, then you got this guy, and then you got this guy, and then you've got your workers that make up the foundation who are actually doing all of the labor. So these are your workers, this is your crew. And your crew for your production of your proteins is kind of like your construction crew, like your mafia crew building up all these skyscrapers. These are your tRNAs. Okay, and notice like the order again and how they are going to come up in the story. So you start with your code, it's your DNA. Then you have your mRNA, and M comes first. Then you have your rRNA who reads the message, and R comes after M. And then you finally have your tRNA, and T's come after R. These guys are called transfer RNAs. Okay. And these essentially do exactly what their name says. They're going to deliver the building materials. The building materials for a protein are going to be amino acids. Remember, the ribosomes, if they're delivering to the ribosomes, that again is the job site. So they're following the orders of the person right before them. So the RNA is going to tell the tRNAs what to do. And the rRNA, the ribosomal RNA, is following the orders of the messenger RNA, and the messenger RNA is following the orders of the DNA. So you have this whole power structure built right within this whole nucleic acid family. Okay. When you kind of understand and see, like, oh, they all have a set role in this whole protein making like conglomerate and like scheme up in your body, all to keep you guys thriving and alive. John, did you have a question?
No, just the thing that I understood.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay, questions about like their role. Because the next week is going to be more about like getting like watching their role in action. So seeing like how do they actually deliver the amino acids? How does the rRNA actually read the message? So if we know the basics of what's their job description, like what are they supposed to do? Next week is about like how do they actually do that? Okay, so this is just the foundational pieces about like what are they supposed to do? Okay. All right. Everybody good? Yeah. Any questions?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So let's go ahead and fill out this left side real quick. Okay. So like light me around it real quick. So what are those things again that we only have for DNA? And we'll type those out. And this will show me that you guys are like, again, still breathing. So we said from the very beginning, DNA was double-stranded. Okay. Other things, DNA, not leave the nucleus. Okay. Other things you guys mentioned at the very beginning. DNA has A, T, and G. Let's see. You said DNA was longer. Other things you guys put. DNA timing or just the T. Okay. If I'm missing anything, you guys also share out. So if DNA was double-stranded, that means that RNA is single-stranded. RNA can go in and out of the nucleus. RNA has A, C, U, and G. RNA is shorter. Good. Okay, so thanks, Victoria. So yeah, with the single-stranded, also RNA has uracil. Also, RNA has multiple types. You have mRNA, rRNA, and tRNA. However, remember they're family. So they're all made with nucleotides. All responsible for making proteins. They all use A, C, G, Gs. Anything else you guys can think of you want to put on there? You can go ahead and put the obvious. All are nucleic acids. Okay. Now this part right here, the T and the U, okay, I didn't really get a chance to dive in on that part too much. It will come up next week when we start looking at how they do their job. So not just what is their job, but how they do it. And it has to do with what I mentioned about mRNA being able to talk and flex in multiple environments. Okay, and it provides an extra level of protection in for the DNA's and the protection of our genetic code. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So just know that there is that difference, and we're going to dive into this piece. So if you're still questioning, like, well, why do they have a T and the RNA has a U? It has to do with the mRNA's job and being able, like I said, flex between those two worlds, like talking with the big boss, but also being able to work like out on the streets, kind of a thing. Out on the streets. Okay. All right. Questions on any of that? Okay. And feel free if you were like, that was the stupidest story you've ever told in your life. Like, totally, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. Like, that wasn't helpful. It just kind of came to me the other day. I was like, oh, that might be helpful. You can tell me on your quiz, because I do have a question at the end of your quiz that actually goes through and has you let me know if there's any specific areas, especially with the nucleic acid stuff, that you're still getting tripped up on. That way, when we move into Monday, we can kind of focus our little add in some extra like practice work so that you guys really got it. Because where we're going to take this is looking at the actual flow chart of how a protein is made. So once you guys have a really good understanding of like, all right, I know the role, what each of these little like players or like what each member of the family is responsible for, it helps tying that and kind of it'll help you understand the next level. Like, oh, okay, if I know that, you know, we've got all of these amino acids that have to be used to make the protein. Oh, the amino acids are the building blocks or the building material. Oh, that's probably the tRNA's job because they're the worker crew. They're the crew. So they got to bring the materials over to the ribosomes. So we're going to do some diagramming out, and I'll have some simulations so you guys will be able to see this whole thing, like this whole show in action. Okay. But for the rest of the class period, here is what I've got for you. You guys, I'm going to give you some time to review over your notes. So you guys can click back into your Nearpod if you need to. You can review over your slides if you need to. But you have a mini quiz, and it is posted in Google Classroom. There are, I feel like I adjusted the questions. There was a little bit of like a uh-oh on one of them. I fixed it though, so we should be good to go. Again, it's 12 points. Don't worry about the fact that it says quiz. What I'm really using it for is to just gauge, like, how are you ending the week? Remember, there's a last question, like asking you to just tell me about it. It's not scored, that last question. There's no points attached to it. And then we're going to use the scores you got, and like I'll release your scores before Monday, so at Monday's class we can kind of see and use those to figure out, okay, where do we need to get those extra practice problems and stuff for Monday. Okay. Once you finish the quiz though, you are done. If you have any other lingering things too, always know you can put those little post-it notes as well on the side of your notebook. If you're like, hey, I didn't really understand this or something, and I can go into your notebook and add in some like video links and stuff like that to kind of help out. So those are just some different ways too to help you use your notebook as a tool. So expanding on it, since this is our third quarter of using them. So we can step it up a bit. But other than that, you guys are free to jump over into Google Classroom and either start reviewing or start taking your quiz, whichever one you are ready for. Please make sure it gets done. Hopefully today. It's legit like 6 questions. If you have any concerns, I will be on here until 3:10. Other than that, I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Do something fun. Thank you for the music recommendations. Check out those Netflix recs, and I will see you Monday morning.
Okay.
Bye.
See ya.
Have a
And
great one.
I'm not sure if I read this poem to you or not, but I got it from a book. 60 degrees that come in threes. Watches from within birch trees. Saw his own dimension burn. Misses home and can't return. Says he's happy. He's a liar. Blame the arson for the fire. If he wants to shirk the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. One way to absolve his crime. A different form, a different time.
Oh, you read it so with such like, I feel like it was so ominous. It's crazy. Thanks, John.
You're welcome
Awesome.
and bye.
Bye, John.